So today we are going to go back to another portrait, okay? But the approach of this portrait is much different from last week. I'll go ahead and I'll put it on I'll share it on my screen. All right. So today's portrait is going to be a lot softer, okay? So this is just an example of a really, really nicely done watercolor portrait. All right. And the thing with this is that this is a soft portrait. There is drama between the lights and the darks, but the darks are no longer dark like they were on the previous person, on the gentleman, that had the very dramatic color. This one is going to be a lot softer. Okay, so the watercolor is going to be a lot softer. It's going to be a bit faster in terms of watercolor, but the drawing might still take us a big chunk of the picture. We are not doing this, girl. This is just the example of how I want you guys to visualize your skin tones, okay? They're not gonna be black like they were on the previous one. They're gonna be a lot lighter and a lot airier, okay? So this is a really nice example of what we're gonna try to approach. And we're actually gonna use this little girl as our model, all right? So the reason why I pick a kid is because kids have softer skin tones. They're not dramatic like older people. And that's what we're looking for in this painting. We're looking for softer midtones. We're not looking for drama, and we're looking for a lot of blending or values that have around the same intensity. Okay, so we're going to be using her, but we're going to be approaching her in this type of watercolor. All right. So that's it. Let's get going, and let's start. All right. So how are you guys doing with your drawing? Are you guys doing okay? Last time I had some students that gave me a really nice watercolor, but an okay drawing, okay? If you guys want, you guys could send me your drawings before you guys start watercoloring. We're gonna spend most of today's class drawing and just a little bit of doing a base watercolor, but not a lot. So make sure that you guys show me your drawing. If you're unsure of your drawing, I could always edit your drawing on Procreate and send you back with the corrections. I usually do a time-lapse video and just send it back to show you what changes I made. But yeah, make sure that if you guys are unsure, let me know, okay? Because I've seen some really good stuff, but not a very good drawing. I've seen very good watercolor, but not a very good drawing. So just, if you guys need some help, just shoot me over your image, and I'd be more than happy to help you out with that, okay? That way you guys don't think like, all right, my drawing's not good, but I have to watercolor. He's not helping us because he's so far away. It's like, no, I could actually help you with time-lapse, all right? So let's get started. So drawing a portrait. I'm gonna draw a few approaches for the portrait because I know you guys are not usually here for drawing, but I'm gonna make them super quick, all right? And then I'm gonna do the big drawing right here. So I'm gonna do two portraits over here to the right side that are fairly small, and I'll do the big one here, okay? So if you guys are looking at the Loomis method, you guys could Google that, or you guys could look at the Riley method. I prefer the Riley method. I actually don't prefer any of them. I prefer more of like Charles Bark style drawing, but the Loomis versus the Riley, I think I talk about those during the earlier class. It's definitely on the drawing session. Okay, I did talk thoroughly during the drawing session. So we're gonna use the Loomis method just to get the big information out of here, okay? So if you have a portrait, the Loomis method, I just wanna review it really quickly because I get confused nowadays since I don't use any with the Riley and the Loomis. All right, so let's say you have a hard time understanding this portrait. I actually picked a portrait that was very frontal. That way this method works very well. So what we're gonna do, if you're using this method, you wanna do a circle, okay? There we go, a nice circle. You don't have to do anything yet. I'm just gonna show you the examples, okay? This circle, we break it into thirds. 1, 2, all right? And this thirds actually become the line of your eyes, or the line of your brow, the line of your head, of your forehead, and the line of your nose, okay? So later on, we could add one more of these thirds down here. So they're all equal, okay? If they're unequal, then your picture is gonna be unequal. Then from here, you do just a simple shape. Okay, this is the side of your head. So you need to have these guys here. That's actually the side of your head right there, all right? Once we do this, then we have a good understanding of where the eyes will go, where the nose will go, where the forehead will go, all right? This is, again, all these methods are really abstract because it depends a lot on the kid or the person that you're drawing, in this case, a kid, okay? And later on, you could make them much more natural. To start off, this is a phenomenal start, okay? If you guys are not understanding the concept of a portrait, now you understand that there's a front side to a portrait, as well as a side to a portrait, and also the big break. So right here, you would have the forehead or the brow. Right here, you would have the nose. Okay. On the edges of the nose, that's where you have the eyes. And 1/3 of the way down, 1/3 of the way down, you would have the center of your lips. That is just plain and simple a good portrait, okay? For the little girl, I would make this circle less of an oval and more of a flatter circle, just because her head feels a little wider, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, for this little girl, I would have made the circle a little broader and then possibly thrown the chin a little outwards, or the jaw, and the chin just ever so subtle, just a little closer, okay? That is the Loomis method. And this Loomis method works really good if you're also tilting the face. So let's say you're drawing somebody that's looking at a different direction. So let's say you're drawing somebody so you're gonna break this into thirds. One, break this into 1, 2. So roughly that's about 2/3. So now we're gonna have a circle for the side of the head here. Then you're gonna have just a line, which is another one of these, 1, 2, 3. Somewhere around here, you're gonna have another line. And now you have Iron Man. Well, Iron Man is the foundation of the Loomis method. So yes, now you have Iron Man, okay? And you have a pretty good portrait with really good understanding of where the brows should go versus the side of the face. So now later on, you could do more and more detail. You could later draw the actual nose that you need to have. That depends on the person that you're drawing. Okay, and now you have a pretty decent portrait of je ne sais pas. Okay, I don't know who. All right, this is just a random individual. Okay, so it works really good on the side. It works really good on the front, but I don't like any of these methods because these methods, you start going into a pattern. So all the people start having the kind of same looking head shape. So even though you could get the characteristics of the individual person, it still feels like he has the same head, all right? So there you go. Those are the 2 methods, and you guys could try them at home. You guys could give them a go and just see if any of these work for you. I am going to use the Charles Bart style drawing, which is the classical style of drawing, which has nothing to do with these shapes. It has more to do with the way we approach angles and lines, okay? So my little girl's gonna go here. She's gonna come somewhere in this vicinity. So what I'm gonna do first is just very simply start doing angles that mimic the little girl. So if you guys are asking me, which of the methods is this? It's none of those portrait methods. It's more of Charles Barks traditional drawings. So it's more about planes and angles, okay? Figuring out planes and angles. So no particular method of this one. All right. That's pretty decent. All right. And don't commit to anything that you're doing, okay? If you guys don't like your drawing and you're committing like, oh, I'm gonna do 20 strands of hair, that means that you guys are gonna be committing to something that might be wrong. I'm not saying it's gonna be wrong, but something that might be wrong. So don't do anything too dark. I'm doing mine a little darker just for you guys to see, but you guys know that if I were drawing in the studio, my drawing would probably be a little lighter and looser than this, okay? All right. So just big shapes, big angles. Again, those methods, if they work for you, they work for you, okay? Don't just do, you know, the way that I draw. I draw this way in part because I'm very confident when it comes to my drawing. But if it doesn't work with you, don't do something that does not work with you, okay? Make sure, I'm gonna make up the forehead, or sorry, the back of the head, even though like we cannot see it, but I'm just gonna assume it, okay? Just don't assume many things. All right, so here she goes. She's looking fine right now. The cameraman is higher than the girl, taller you could say, or on a step stool or something, okay? But he's on a higher surface than she is. So that's why we get to see her line of sight lower. So if I was doing any of these Loomis or Riley method, I would pull this third down just a tiny bit, just because this little girl is actually gently lower. All right. So here we go. So now I'm gonna go ahead and just measure real quickly. When you see me stick out my hand like that, I'm usually either turning on the image or I'm measuring, okay? So the nose is a little bit above this quarter, so it's just gonna be a little above that quarter. So if I measure 1 and 2, that's just ever so subtle, just above that quarter, okay? So I'm gonna make the width of the nose very simple. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm not gonna do this line here because she's such a young little girl. It's almost like a cartoon. Usually cartoons don't do this part of the nose on little kids. That's because that part is a lot softer, okay? On adults, it's much more visible. So now I'm measuring the angle of the nose to the end of the eye. So I'm measuring this angle right here. All right. All right, so it's this kind of V shape here. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw a few little things here. So the eye goes pretty straight, and then at the end, it just lifts up just a little bit. Sorry if you guys hear a giant upstairs, it's just my daughter. She's directly on top of where I'm working, and it sounds like there's a giant living in here. There's a little bit of a broad space between the eyes. There shouldn't be so much of a space, but what's happening here, the cameraman is so close, or the camera person is so close to this young lady that it's doing what we call the fisheye. So it's opening, because remember, a camera only has one lens, unlike a human eye, which has two lenses or two eyes. So a human eye will have a different way if he gets close to somebody of registering that something. This thing, the camera, because it only has one round lens, as it starts getting closer to somebody, it starts roundening off that person. So you get that kind of fisheye approach. So usually this gap here should be a little less broad, but because the person is so close, it's making that fisheye. So it is natural on her. And very correct. Okay, so again, I'm still not committing. Remember how I feel of committing. You do commit, but I don't commit too fast. Okay, it should be a philosophy of life. Now I'm going to go ahead and just do the area above. Think before committing, I guess you could say. I'm just going to think about the area here. Now I'm going to do the little ball for the upper lip. And I'm noticing one thing, and that's perfectly fine, that her chin is going to be just a little bit too high. And that's fine. I could always just go back and redo it. Just pull it lower, okay? Don't forget the lower lip doesn't end in the same part as the upper lip. It ends inside. It perceives less wide. And don't forget what I always tell you, that is the same for the upper lip too. The upper lip, the upper eyelid is always broader than the lower eyelid, okay? So I drew her nose a little lower than what I should have, which is okay. I just have to make her face a little larger. And don't forget, that's the reason why I drew light. Well, not so light, but if I were drawing in my house, well, I am drawing in my house. If I were drawing in the studio and I wanted you guys not to see my lines so much, I would have drawn a bit lighter than what I'm doing here. But if I draw too light, then you guys have a hard time seeing it on the Zoom image. All right, much better. So I'm just gonna erase it. I wouldn't erase it if it were mine, but I don't want to confuse you guys. So I'm just gonna erase it just to show you how much I kind of lowered the chin down a little bit. All right, really good. So my line drawing is pretty good. Okay, I think it's pretty accurate, pretty much where my line drawing needs to be. So my gesture drawing / contour drawing is in the picture. okay? So what I'm gonna do now is what I always do. And as I tell all of my students, mapping your shadows is not just for drawing, it's not just for oil painting, it's not just for color pencil, it's for every medium, okay? With oil painting, you can map your shadows with your brush. With watercolor, you could just paint straight up and map your shadows, or you could just draw beforehand. If you guys take a look at the earlier class that I did today, my drawing class, you could see how I map my shadows. I am not shy of showing people that mapping their shadows is important. Google, there's some good artists out there. If you guys go into our YouTube page, I follow a lot of pretty good artists that, you know, have been a part of my life, have been a part of somebody that I just like their artwork and so forth. And most of the classical artists that you might follow that I have in my YouTube page, they're actually very, very much always mapping their shadows and always finding just big darks and big lights, okay? So remember that, don't be shy of doing that. Sometimes it's like, oh, if I map, I don't have the experience. Or if I draw lines of reference, I don't have the experience. Quite the opposite. If you don't map, you show people that you don't have the experience. If you don't do gestural lines of reference, you show people that you don't have the experience. If you just try to do one hard line, that is usually the lack of experience, okay? So don't forget, lines, mapping, all these organic stuff is all part of the natural format of drawing. All right, so I'm gonna start mapping in my big darks and my big lights. And on her, it's a little tough because she's a little girl, and they're not as obvious as if this was like an older person, and an older person has these very, very hard edges. On an older person, these are super easy to find. On the little girl, not so much, okay? So we're gonna have to try our best to find her lights and her darks. All right, so this is the light here, that's the light. These are the darks on the right side. Most of the right side is actually a dark value. And when I find these, her brows are quite high. They're somewhere over here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just gently map her brows. They go a little high, just a little high before they drop. They drop somewhere around here, okay? All right, and I'm gonna go to the other eye. I think her eyes are a little wrong too, but it's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and fix them now. All right, don't forget her face is gently tilting to the left. When I made this center line, I tilted to the left. So her left side is smaller than the right side, okay? All right, so I'm gonna adjust some things now. All right, pretty good. So I'm gonna map this little shadow here. And don't forget, you guys, little secret here, those drawing courses are open for you guys to see. So I know you guys like watercolor a lot and that's what you guys are choosing to do, but the drawing courses are completely open for you guys, okay? So don't think like, oh, I'm watercoloring, I cannot look at those drawing courses because it's like cheating. It's like, no, they're open for you guys. So if you guys are having a little hard time understanding why I'm doing this simplicity when I'm drawing, why I'm talking about who in the world is this Charles Bark person, who is this Loomis person, it's like, that is all explained in the drawing course, okay, or in the drawing classes. So don't be shy into free time on the weekend. It's like, yeah, I'm tired of playing the phone, or I'm tired of seeing some of the TV stuff that I've been watching lately. I'm going to take a look at the YouTube channel and I'm going to see what he's talking about, okay? If you guys do that, you guys understand drawing very well. You guys will understand the drawing that I'm talking about very well. And you guys will just have an overall easier time, okay? And it's not a secret. I was playing around. It is open for you guys to see. I still think her chin is not low enough, so I'm gonna extend it even more. It wasn't that far off anymore. It was just like very little, but little enough for me to notice. All right. Again, if you guys know, when I draw in the studio, I draw very light, so I don't actually have to be erasing. But here, I want you guys to see what I'm doing through the zoom. So I need to erase a little bit just to keep it more legible. All right, that looks pretty good. She has a good feeling of her, okay? To me, her eyes are a tad bit small, but those are things that I could fix now. So what I'm gonna do is just gonna make the eye a little bigger on the bottom. All right. All right, so there's not much to say here. I'm just rendering, that's all I'm doing. All right, so that looks fine. You know, I think I have all the big stuff that I need to have. I think I have the big drawing as I need to have this. I think I'm just gonna break my lights and darks of my hair. Her head looks to be bigger. Usually kids have a bigger head. Adults, their head perceives to be smaller. And also don't forget that the photographer is standing higher than she is. All right, quick question. You guys could say word-wise, say something, or just put your thumbs up or thumbs down on the camera. Who is drawing at this point, or who is If you're drawing, put your thumbs up. If you're not drawing, just say no, or you could text something, or you could just turn on your microphone and say yes or no. Who is drawing and who is not? Because if some of you are drawing, I would actually stop here for like 10 minutes and let you guys catch up. If all of you guys are just looking at the video and you guys are going to watercolor later after the video is over, let me know, okay? That way I don't have to pause. So who's drawing? Nobody's drawing? Who's just watching? You could put the little finger that goes up, the little thumbs up. Nobody's watching? All right, so you guys are just both watching? Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll just go straight into watercolor. This class is gonna go for like another 45 minutes, but if you guys are just watching, don't forget, an hour 20, an hour 30 of me just talking, it's like also like 2 or 2.5 hours of you guys doing. So even though the class is not, let's say, going for the 2 hours, the lecture is not going for the 2 hours, it's going for less than that. You guys are probably going to spend over 2 hours drawing, and after that, over 2 hours watercoloring. Okay, so in that case, I'm just going to go straight into it. I just have to fill up my water. I didn't do that, so I'm going to put this thing again. Here we go. All right. So right now, what I'm going to do is just going to pick my palettes and put them in families that I'm going to need them. Okay. So I'm going to grab my lemon. If I'm using yellow ochre and lemon yellow, I could skip my cadmium because I could get something very similar from using those two. So always remember, if you're using a little far extremes, you could skip some of your colors, okay? All right, so I'm putting my yellows here. I'm putting my yellow ochre here. Or if you don't have those colors because you don't own them, then we could always just mix stuff together. So the big difference with today's picture is we have to hit a high chroma from the very beginning. So we want to hit the color intensity that we need from the get-go, okay? So I'm going to get a cadmium orange, one of the lighter ones here. All right. I'm going to grab my cadmium red, and then I'm going to jump into my crimson. You could, if you guys want to omit the crimson, you could go into the cadmium red and jump into the magenta. In oil painting, I really like magenta. In watercolor, I could use magenta. I don't have to use magenta, but if you want to cool stuff up, we could jump into our magenta. If you don't have magenta, just use your crimson, this one here, okay? Magenta's like a reddish purple. All right, now let's go into our neutrals. I'm going to go into my burnt sienna here, a blue and a black. I don't know what's going on over here, but there's a ton of ambulances running around. It feels like people are out and about already. So ambulances, the airplanes are flying through again. It's like people are, no, it's like we're the only ones that are quarantined now. I drove to the studio today to pick up some stuff, and there was more than regular amount of people outside. All right, so I'm gonna grab my greenish blue here. You guys could either grab your cobalt or your phthalo. You guys could do a combination of these two. It's okay. I just need a blue to add some color to this picture. All right. That looks pretty good. I like my palette. I think it's fine. So today we're gonna keep our palette to a very specific thing. Okay. We are gonna just add the lightest color on the skin tone. We are gonna add the lightest color on the hair. We're not gonna touch the background, and then we're gonna add a very subtle dark value, and that's gonna be it for today. Don't forget, that's gonna be like 40 minutes of work for me, But altogether, between my hour and a half of work, that might be up to 2.5, 2 or 3 hours for you guys, okay? So don't forget. All right, so I'm gonna use my mop brush. Remember, I love my mop brush. If I could have a bunch of these ones, flats, mops, I would have just a bunch of mop brushes. And I do have a bunch of them, so I don't need to say that if I wanted to, but I do have a lot of them because they work for watercolor. But I'm gonna stay with my limited one, the ones that I use in the studio, just because I know we don't all have the access to this materials, okay? So I don't wanna use materials that you guys cannot use. I wanna be, taking that approach. So one of the nicest things with the mop brush is it carries a lot of water, and it allows me not to have to do a wash at the beginning, like a big watery wash. It just allows me to have fun, all right? So that said, let's have fun. All right, ooh, yellow, I like it. So I'm not gonna use a lot of this lemon. The lemon is just the color around the highlights, okay? So even if you guys overuse this lemon, let's say I'm overusing it here, just grab your paper towel and bring out your light again, okay? That's all this is for. So it's just the color around your highlights. All right, so we don't need a lot of that, I guess I discussed. We mostly need our yellow ochre. So this is a more earthy yellow. You guys should know the yellow ochre by heart already. It's like my yellow, not my yellow, but it's my to-go yellow. All right. And I'm okay if my colors have a little higher chroma, so a little bit more color saturation. Because I could later move that around just with water. Remember, I'm not making my colors green yet or changing my pigment in a very dramatic way. I'm just adding the high chroma of my color. So I'm doing everything that I want to blend into the picture. Remember, some colors could get rid of some of the yellow. Or my color is oversaturated, that's fine. Because later on, we'll do one more layer of gray, one more layer of gray, and we'll be done. So easy. Watercolor is that medium that we want things not to get harder as we get better, is things get harder because it gets so easy. It's counterintuitive to make it that easy. It's like, what are you saying? If I only do this and that, this thing is done? It's like, yep. That's why we're pushing in such a heavy chroma right now, to make sure things are done. If you feel that the color's getting colder, just go into that magenta. Let your eye guide what's needed. I think I went a little crazy with my yellow ochre, but I'm not even scared. I'm not even, you know, oh no, what's gonna happen? Later on, the grays are gonna do the work. If we're watercoloring and we're thinking like, this is the final layer, then yes, it gets super scary because then this layer starts feeling more and more and more wrong all the time. But if in my head, I'm already okay that this is not the final layer, that I still have to work this thing and I still have to do a lot of stuff to this, I'm still just having a blast. Carefree. Don't forget, on top of this really high chroma colors, high color saturation, we're going to use grays. So if we already know that it doesn't freeze, it frees you up. You can do whatever you want. As long as you don't use these over here. That's the only place where I've actually found a little problem, up here. But it's not even one problem that I care about too much. Remember, I'm here to boost your confidence. And for watercolor, you do need confidence. So if you had a cold press paper like me, you could still lift some of this stuff up, which I can, by the way. But if you don't have a cold press paper, you cannot lift. It's going to be super hard. Okay, so I could pick up one of those colors that I oversaturated before. And those of you who have been taking the sessions, don't forget that I bring out my highlights with my knife because I didn't bring my masking fluid. So that's perfect. That's okay. It's like, no, the knife is not a tool. Yes, it is. In watercolor, it's a tool. So I'm mixing my reds with my browns. And don't forget, mainly two colors, just red and your yellow. That's it. All right, we'll have the time to use more and more and more colors later. Just remember, we'll have the time to do that later. Right now, I'm not even distinguishing too much my right and my left because I'm only looking for color at this point. I'm not really looking to make my my right side darker than my left side. Right now, it's just all about color. Don't forget, we're missing good old dandy gray. All right, and that looks pretty good. So now I'm gonna go into my reds. It's like, that looks good. It looks like she's on fire, like in the way she is on fire. All right, so I'm gonna work on the hair, and after that, I might have to let the picture sit. That's where I want to kind of end today's session because if not, I have to let the picture sit regardless, just with you guys waiting on the other side. right. So all these high chroma colors, everything feels like it has color. All right, just continue to block. This is no experience of color. It's just browns and blacks and browns and blacks. All right, and let's wrap this up with a little bit of blue. All right. So I'm getting in all of the high chroma. She doesn't have blue eyes in any way, but if I need to fill this in with a color, I'm going to fill it into the color that's closest to the light, which is the blue eyes, but it's actually more brown. Her actual color. I could do the more brown later. All righty, guys. So this part is pretty good. And don't forget, this took me just over an hour, just a little bit of an hour plus. I could still do one more step. I do have to let my watercolor dry for a few minutes before I do the next step. I don't want you guys to overdo this though, because when I'm done with the next step, the portrait is done. Okay, there's no going back to the portrait. It's finished, finito. There might be some work done to the eyes and all that stuff, but the bigger portrait is done. Since I was done with enough time to kind of eat some time up, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the last step, but I'm gonna let this dry just for like 5 minutes. So if you guys want to go get some candy, or you guys want to go do something real quickly, just go. I'm gonna let this rest. Remember, it's just gonna be a few seconds, a few minutes but I'm gonna let it rest before I do the last step on the portrait, okay? And this is final. This is not maybe the last step or maybe not. This is what makes this picture, this portrait, a lot more direct and a lot less slow than the other ones, okay? But I'm not gonna finish the picture regardless today. I'm gonna do most of the picture, the portrait today, but I'm still gonna have to leave a little bit of the background for the next session. All right, so I'm just gonna finish this up. I'm gonna let my picture dry for a few minutes. Okay, but while I let it dry, you guys could do anything you guys want. Just come back at, let's say, 7:10, okay? Before I do the last step. So just go do anything you guys need to go do. I'm just gonna let the eyebrows dry, and then we're gonna do the last step on the portrait, all right? I'm still gonna be here, so if you guys have any questions, go ahead and shoot. I could answer anything. But if you guys don't have any questions, then you guys could go ahead and do the shadow part. Have fun. I'll upload the images in a few minutes, and you guys are good to go. All right. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe out there. And if you guys have any questions, concerns with your drawing or anything else, just shoot them over to me, and I'll be more than happy to critique them and shoot them back to you guys. Okay? You guys are all set for today?
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, you're very welcome. Have a good time, and we'll see you guys next week. All right?
Have a nice rest of your day and a good weekend.
Thank you, China. You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.